What's your favorite film adaptation of a TV show? This one ends with a white man shooting another white man through the neck, and I promise I didn't time this out intentionally. It's day 92 of 365, today's movie, Edge of Darkness. Directed by Martin Campbell and starring Mel Gibson, Ray Winstone, and a very young Frank Grillo, this is kind of an odd duck to talk about. Beyond the shocking similarities to real-world current events, I also have to point out the Mel Gibson of all this. This was his first starring role since 2002 because of a myriad of terrible things happening in his personal life. DUIs, divorce, and dedicating time to anti-Semitism. Those 3 Ds will really get you. It's also worth mentioning that this movie is based on a TV show also directed by Martin Campbell. It was only a 6-episode miniseries, and then he adapted it into this film. This kind of turns everything here into a weird cinematic pie that I'm not sure how to slice. This was supposed to be the return to the stardom that a Mad Max star would deserve, and it kind of wasn't. It ended up only making its budget back in theaters and then was largely forgotten about. But then on the other hand, it's also very poignant, and it's talking about the impotence of cops and their ability to handle things in the white-collar world, especially when they have these huge reaching side effects. These kinds of political procedural thrillers aren't normally my bag, and I hadn't visited this one since 2010, much like From Paris with Love last time. So on my current rewatch, I was really shocked at the kinds of things this was touching on in 2010 that are still affecting us in our world today. Its ultimate lesson ends up being you can't fix these problems without vigilantism run by revenge. And that's just such an odd thing to put onto the shoulders of a cop, especially in this kind of white-collar world. I don't know, it's a very odd, strange film overall, but it's really well made, and so maybe it's 54% on Rotten Tomatoes I actually agree with for the first time. It's kind of a split bag of like excellent filmmaking and kind of terrible casting decisions. But regardless, let's jump into the 3 things that I really liked about Edge of Darkness. The first thing that I really enjoyed about this movie is Mel Gibson, unfortunately, or fortunately. He's a very gifted actor, and in this movie, he's acting his ass off. I was actually here for this movie because of Signs, which is, I think, one of his greatest performances of all time. And so for this to be the follow-up, it's not shocking that within the first 10 minutes of the movie, he is giving us the most incredible push of acting that we've seen in a long time. He wanted to show us that he was here to show up for the work, and I can kind of appreciate that. There's something about watching real masters of the craft, regardless of their real-life personal issues, really show up and show us how it's done. And this is a movie where he's absolutely here to do that. This isn't his first kind of politically driven movie. This isn't his first go as a cop. This isn't his first action-centered movie where he's getting into shootouts. All the trappings of what you've seen him do are here, but he's also trying to bring a real performance. Even his attempt at a Boston accent is not the worst that I've seen among movies that were doing Boston accents at the time. And listen, Boston had become the center of so many films, from The Departed to this one to The Town a little later on. So doing a Boston accent was just kind of a thing everyone was attempting. I think it was like a bar for actors to cross over, and Mel Gibson wanted to even bite at that. And he's not doing a terrible job of it here for someone that can also do Australian and British and broad American. There's specifically a scene between him and Ray Winstone in his backyard where Ray Winstone is smoking a cigar, and they're just having a very rough back and forth with each other. They're each withholding information from the other, and both are super talented actors. And it's these kinds of scenes that make making movies worth it for a director. Martin Campbell is no slouch. He made The Mask of Zorro, which I think is one of the best action-adventure movies ever made. And so having an opportunity here to pit these 2 amazing actors against each other in a very low-stakes otherwise scene, they're just in a backyard. There's no scenery for them to choose, so it's all about emoting, or specifically what they're not emoting, how they're withholding from each other, that makes this scene just absolutely kind of jaw-dropping to watch. The second thing I love so much about this movie is that it's showing us a dark, 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 dark world. This is something that at the time was not being highlighted, especially in a cop movie. Those kinds of movies tended to be white saviorism, superhero adjacent films where cops were just filling in for the justice system, and even if they had to go against the rules, they were doing it out of a sense of absolute morality. Here things are a little different. We're actually pitting a cop into a world where he's not able to move in the way that he would like to move. And like I said at the top, showing the impotence of the police in these kinds of matters, I think is a really, really cool lens to bring to this genre. There's radiation and dirty bombs, corporate greed and police corruption. These kinds of things can't be taken down by a single guy. And the entire time, he's centered himself within this until the very end of the movie, where he realizes that this isn't a revenge plot. His daughter didn't fall into the line that was meant for him, but actually she was the target the whole time. And he's never been more out of his league than he is at this point. This is something that we don't usually talk about in these kinds of stories, and to even have Mel Gibson in the role is kind of crazy. Frank Grillo being here is evidence that anyone else would play this role as just super cop. Mel Gibson is here to play this as dad. He's really bringing an emotionality to this performance that you just don't see in this kind of role, especially the role of an aging police officer. The revenge that he gets at the end of the film is cold and at the cost of his own life. He's not going to make it out of this. That's what we find. And that's okay, because the story's asking him to give up his life, not to sacrifice for any one specific person. No, he's already lost it all. Instead, to sacrifice his life to give some kind of justice to the world in a game condition where no one else is going to be able to win. Only he can extract this vigilante revenge justice for us all. And ultimately, he does all this by giving information to the press. The press is the very last centering of this movie. Our last scene doesn't have any major actors in it, but instead just has his name written on a Post-it on 2 CDs of information so that the story can be told after the fact. That's really interesting, to say that all of this is kind of a prologue to the things that need to happen in this story is super interesting to me, and I love that that's the center core of this movie. The third thing that I love so much about this movie is the shaving scene. We get a small flashback with Mel Gibson's character where he is reflecting on the time that he had with his daughter when she was young. He puts shaving cream on her face and allows her to shave with a comb while he's shaving his own face. And it's this connective tissue that not only adds to the performance within the movie, what Mel Gibson's character is bringing to us, but really what's at stake for him across this, what he's lost, and what is driving him to make meaning out of what he's lost. Not only is the scene perfectly constructed as a little encapsulation of their relationship, but it's also likely a core memory for her and her character. Even though she's not centered throughout the movie much, she's still the main pushing factor, and seeing the innocence that was lost allows the audience to kind of put ourselves into his shoes. Would we also go this far for someone that had given us these kinds of memories? I think it's really beautiful. And again, not something you normally see in these cop-centered movies. They tend to push all the focus into action, and instead this movie's putting all the focus into the drama of what happened to this man with his family. But what do you think? Is this one a full skip for you because Mel Gibson's here? Or is this one maybe worth checking out because of the topic material and how it's being handled? To continue our cop trilogy, we're switching from thriller into comedy. Tomorrow's movie is Cop Out. So I'll see you tomorrow.